everybody. Wendy Sellers here, the HR lady, with my fabulous co-host, JC.
Yes, I am. It's a pleasure, Wendy. Thank you. Nice to see you today.
You know, you might as well own it. When I say fabulous, you know, you might as well own it.
Owned.
JC and I were texting back and forth or something the other day, and he was like, "Oh my God, we have to do a show on this." And so we want to talk about a few things they got fired for what? They got fired for that. So, JC.
The U.S. bank Wells Fargo has fired more than a dozen workers for alleged simulation of keyboard activity in an apparent attempt to fool their employer into thinking that they were working. The employees were discharged after a review of allegations involving the simulation of keyboard activity, creating the impression of active work. According to a filing with the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, that is. The filing reported by Bloomberg does not disclose whether the staff in question were using home or office computers. However, a company spokesman said Wells Fargo holds employees to the highest standards and does not tolerate unethical behavior. Device or software used to simulate computer mouse activity, known as mouse movers or mouse jigglers, they're widely available, and many of them claim that they're undetectable. They're designed to prevent computers from entering sleep mode, Wendy. The devices work by placing the mouse on a platform or disk that rotates to imitate normal movement, while the software runs a program that moves a mouse around. Back to you. Your thoughts?
So I'm not surprised. It cracks me up that you sent me this information. And I was just recently talking with friends of mine who sent out a group text about this, undetectable mouse mover, which jiggles your screen, because many companies, especially for remote workers, are checking to see you're doing your job just because your mouse is moving. And so I know many people who already do that. They will, have their laptop at a lunch or at a happy hour or whatever, or in some cases a mouse, but it's usually a laptop. A cell phone. It's usually a laptop, and they're just there hitting it once in a while they're having drinks, while they're having dinner, while they're having lunch. And it cracks me up. First of all, it's a bad thing to do, to steal your employer's time. But what's more, I don't know how to put this, more worse is, hey, employer, why don't you learn how to manage your people? And if it only takes them 20 hours to do the job, why do they have to sit there for 40 jiggling their mouse? What are your thoughts on that, JC?
I really get frustrated with this. Look, I understand that everyone out there is doing whatever they want to do or choose to do in their own right. I'm one of those firm believers that if we're working and we're working on something, it's an open door. Come on by. I'm not going to tell you have to. However, if you don't, and then you're constantly never available, what am I supposed to think? That's where I really do believe that collaboration becomes key, right? If you're going to work in silos, if you're going to work in a totally collaborative environment, none of it matters. It doesn't matter what your environment or culture is what I'm getting at. It's all about human interaction and communication at the end of the day. I don't care if you're in person or if you're remote. So if you have an opportunity to collaborate, even if it's to effectively communicate what your schedule is, your time of day, what you're up to, etc., we're all grown-ups. We all have deadlines and things that are due. If you can't meet those deadlines and you're never available, you never communicate, things aren't happening, that there to me is enough of a basis to then proceed with something else in a different arena or direction. I do understand the need for, statistics, metrics, data, things like that to further back up and substantiate a claim, and I get it with mouse jigglers, etc. However, if you're jiggling your mouse for 3 to 4 hours, you have a deadline that's due in 2 days, you're probably 2 weeks behind on what the work is, and you've talked to no one in the process, not even regular iterative updates, well, then what are we supposed to think? You're on your own.
Right. Yeah.
You got the job on your own. We hired you on your own, and you're working with us together, but you choose to be alone and do nothing. What am I supposed to think?
Yeah. You've said it, well said, sir. Well said, 100%. And, this comes down to the fact that managers need to manage. And again, I hate blaming managers because we often put people in management positions just because they're there, not because they're qualified. And I'm cool with that too. Fine. You have somebody who has the capability to be a manager. don't just throw them into a management position. Give them the training so they have the knowledge, skills, and abilities. They know what's expected of them. They know how to hold people accountable when they're caught jiggling their mouse or using, an undetectable mouse mover, which you could get on Amazon right now, by the way, for like $17 because there's a giant.
Oh yeah, I got a whole thing I'll talk to you about on that one. But hey, to your point real quick, and I don't mean to jump in, but I am, so I do mean to. Listen, managers, of course, they're focusing on administration and control. Managers implement processes. They set goals. They ensure tasks are completed efficiently, and they may focus on planning, organizing, and coordinating resources, etc. Managers, very important. However, leaders inspire and motivate teams. Leaders focus on vision and innovation. They encourage creativity and they guide teams towards shared goals. You can be a leader that manages, but can you be a manager that's a leader? There's a difference there. There's a key difference there because leaders are seen as role models. They foster positive culture. They drive change. They're open. They're communicative. Are you? You have to ask yourself these questions. Do you emphasize personal development and build strong trust-based relationships with your teams? Or are you telling people what to do as you prioritize stability? And that's all you want to do. A little bit of a difference there. That's just from my seat. Wendy, what do you think about that? I kind of went off a little. Sorry about that.
No, it's all good, dude. Not all managers can be leaders and not all leaders are managers. You don't have to be in a management role to be a leader. You could be in any role there is and you can lead people because of your charisma and your advice and your ability to help them and motivate them and to step out of the way when they got it. I see so often though, people confuse leadership and management or management and leadership when it's really about power and greed and control, right? It's like, hey, I'm in control. I'm at the top of the food chart and you better listen to me. That's not leadership. That's barely even management, Things have changed since I'll just say since 2020, but it was really way before that. But now employees are demanding, be a leader or I'm going to do the bare minimum while I'm taking your paycheck or I'm going to look for another job. And there's so many jobs available still. There's still a lot of jobs available. So people can go and work for somebody else, but not everybody wants to because it's hard to start a new job. So if you're not going to manage or lead, your employees are going to possibly do the bare minimum, still take that paycheck and, not be very motivated to go above and beyond and maybe take that mouse and jiggle it and pretend they're working.
Here's the interesting thing too. If you have a effective manager that's awesome at doing all the managerial things, but they're not a leader, can you effectively shift the individual's mindset to be supportive of leaders? Not necessarily saying executive leadership, just supportive of leaders in general. So that if you do stat rank your team with leaders, people that inspire, people that are open, people that are communicative and want to work together, goal-oriented, etc., you stack your team with leaders, the job for the manager becomes quite simple.
Oh, yes, it does.
Except for the instances where people are being inspired by the leaders to do things and they're still not doing it. And the manager's assigning tasks and they're still not doing it. Whose problem is it at that point? Is it someone that's leading from a seat that's below the manager? Absolutely not. It's up to the manager to keep things on task. Exactly right. Yeah. So you can stat rank your whole organization with leaders that can effectively communicate, but you do need the managers with those key skills to drive things forward when it falls off.
Yeah, 100%. Even if you have people that are willing to step up and lead and say, hey, I got this manager, I'll take the meeting for you. It's still the manager's responsibility to check in on them and to say good job and making sure they know like, hey, are we all on the same page? So again, going back to don't blame the managers. Don't blame, the employees if they're using a, simulated work or they're cutting out of work a couple hours early. If they got their job done and you set a goal and they got it done, who cares if they're cutting out of work early? Now, I take a little caveat there, JC, of course we care, especially if they're hourly. We want that employee may need the 40 hours hourly in order to pay their bills. So if they get their job done in 35 and you're forcing them to be there the rest of the 4 hours to get those 4 hours instead of just paying them the full amount, then if they have nothing to do, they're going to jiggle their mouse around. On the other hand, if you have a salaried employee and they can get work done by law, if they do work, half the amount of time, you still pay them the full amount, but you can adjust your policies to say, even if you get your work done, we still want you here and present and helping other people. Here, I'm going to assign you to this committee. I'm going to have you, train other people. So I hate and I love the exempt salary status, which, by the way, is up in the air right now. There's a change for the Department of Labor salary change. We're going live with this right away, but keep an eye on the news because many people are trying to get that thrown out and probably will be successful, unfortunately, because they don't want to pay salaried people more, nor do they want to move those salaried people to hourly, who will then get overtime when you're abusing them of working 70 hours, but they're only getting pay for 40. I digress. That's a whole other topic there.
No,
but
all good.
It probably goes with this too, because if you're hourly or salary and you have to be there 40 hours or more to get your paycheck and you got it done because you're so efficient and productive, the mouse jiggling might actually be a point of saying, hey, employer, help me out here. Give me more work, train me on something else, or I don't know.
All right. So
what are your thoughts?
This next part here, though, I'm going to go down a dark hole, Wendy, and I want you to keep.
Oh, no.
Yeah, no, I want you to keep your HR hat on. And for anyone in human resources listening, I want you to think about this next part with a very open mind. And let's talk about some effective strategies around this. Okay.
Okay.
So to cheat the system more effectively, simply put, a multifaceted strategy would then have to be essential. And that simply involves using advanced automation tools that could mimic human behavior more precisely, such as randomizing intervals between movements to avoid detection by pattern recognition algorithms. So programs that can simulate keystrokes in addition to mouse activity could help. And then integrating those tools with legitimate productivity software that logs actual work progress could then provide a more convincing cover. Now, moreover, incorporating physical devices with software solutions would then also add a layer of redundancy using a combination of hardware mouse jigglers and software that intermittently simulates typing could then create a robust facade. So I'm going to pause right there because how many employers listening right now find themselves in a technical environment that is controlled by their IT? Probably a lot of them. But how many small mom and pops are out there, or small businesses, per whatever your state definition or federal definition or whatever definition you're going by, small businesses exist that take care of their own IT that might have to think about some of these things where employees are installing their own software. So I want to pause right there just to throw what I've put on the table so far at you, Wendy Sellers, the HR lady, as we continue down this dark journey of how to take the mouse jiggler to another hyper extreme.
It's the truth. Listen, majority of businesses in the United States, across the world, really, not just in the United States, are small businesses. That definition varies. We'll just say under 100 employees, but honestly, it's probably more than under 25 employees. There's no way those businesses have IT. They might have somebody who's tech savvy and handles their IT, or they may actually have an IT consultant. But let's face it, most small businesses don't. They're winging it with HR. They're winging it with IT. They're even winging it with finance. And they're just concentrating on their specialty of their product, their service. And so when we're thinking about things like this and we're letting, our employee says, I know how to do that. I'll handle that. You go, great. Thank you. Because I don't know what I'm doing. And then they could go behind the scenes and, I don't want to say take advantage of the employer, but absolutely take advantage of the employer. Yeah. I'm going to give you an example here, JC. This, I think this is real. It's something I found on Reddit. So there was this Reddit user was recently fired from his programming job.
Fillet of fish.
Yeah, it's the fillet of fish user. That was his username, folks. He claims that he automated his work as at a programming job for 6 years. And it was so automated that he forgot how to code. So when he first started his software testing quality assurance job, he spent 8 months automating all the programming tasks. When all the tasks were completely automated by a computer, he just sat by and did whatever the heck he wanted. Didn't really work, would jiggle his mouse once in a while, check in, played, games. He played League of Legends in his office. He went to work, and I say air quotes on that, for 6 years for 40 hours a week, playing League of Legends instead of actually working because he automated everything, and nobody knew because nobody knew what his job was. Eventually, he ended up getting not really fired. I believe it was let go because they got acquired or something like that happened, but they never really caught him. Like, guy was a genius, but also an evil genius.
It's a tough one too when you really get into it. If you're smart enough to develop the code to then automate the programming tasks to do software testing, which I'm not even going to really open up the door of right now in our discussion. There's a lot of things out there that can be used for automated software testing that's on the market nowadays. But for this specific user and their vague statement, if they were smart enough to enact some of those tools or develop their own, and the software continued to be tested okay and run accordingly, you got to ask yourself the question, are you really losing as a company, or are you still gaining because they're still accomplishing the task maybe even better than I expected? I don't know. You would have to have some sort of independent audit to take a deeper look at that, or someone like the chief technology officer to delve even deeper to make sure that things were checked in the box. It's a fascinating one at the end of the day.
It really is, because like you said, I mean, if they were doing the job manually, or they did the job because they programmed it, they're still doing the job you hired them from for. It's your fault, the company's fault, for not being in touch with the employee and saying, how are things going? Do you need anything else to be working on? Show me what you're doing. It's completely the company's fault. And so I see so often, unfortunately, especially with small businesses, I'm an HR consultant as well as a management trainer. And I get people that call me. They're like, we have no clue what the laws are. We have no clue. We don't want to fire this person because we think the company's going to fall apart without them. And I go, well, that alone is a problem. If you're relying on one person who is not, one of the owners, and you say you cannot fire them, even though nobody wants to work with them because you're not sure what they do. Oh my God, my head, my veins in my head right now are popping out. So I usually have to take a walk before I take these calls, and maybe a shot of something, and go, okay, we need to talk about bigger picture items here, that you're at risk. If you don't know what they're doing and they pull the plug and they walk out, then you're at risk. So
all right, hang on.
The moral of the story here is know what your employees are doing pretty much all times without being overbearing.
Wendy,
feedback sessions, very, very important.
You're talking about pulling the plug and walking out, and I got one for you the second you said that. Sure. Pulling the plug and walking out. In 2009, a flight attendant named Steven Slater became infamous for a dramatic exit from his job at JetBlue. After a heated argument with a passenger over baggage, Slater grabbed 2 beers from the beverage cart, deployed the emergency evacuation slide, and slid off the plane at JFK Airport. This bold and unconventional exit led to his immediate firing and subsequent arrest, but it also turned him into a folk hero for frustrated coworkers everywhere.
I remember
These
this
are
one.
Interesting things with JC. Back to you, Wendy.
Folks, the moral of the story is, listen, it's up to you to manage your employees, whether they're using a mouse jiggler or they're programming their job and just sitting back and playing video games. It's up to you to manage your employees. Teach your managers how to manage. Don't blame the managers. Take a mirror, grab it, and say, oh, I might be part of the problem because I expected a miracle. With that said, before we go, I want to let everyone know that I, the HR lady, will be rolling out a membership-based subscription program very soon, very soon. It's going to be very affordable, helpful to anyone who's working in a small business with or without HR, including small business owners, managers, supervisors, and of course, HR team members. The HR Ladies Insider Access access membership program is going to provide monthly access to HR forms and policies, HR management training courses, timely articles, ebooks, HR advice, live sessions, and so much more. So if you're interested, let me know. Go to my website, thehrlady.com, go to the contact page, and you can sign up for my newsletter, which is only 3 times a year. That will be coming out in a few weeks with all of the details. With that said, any last words, JC?
Oh, I really wasn't ready for final thoughts or final words just yet, Wendy. I apologize about that. Hang on. Let me think about this while you pull out some final words and then come right back to me. Would that be okay?
Absolutely.
All right.
Again, my goal is to help small businesses, specifically blue collar, white collar, it doesn't matter, but we have so many small businesses in the United States that are just winging it in HR and management. And that's nothing to be ashamed of. So wing it with me. I'm here to help you. I want to help you. I want us all to succeed together. With that said, final words from JC.
Yes. Wendy, what do you get when you combine a elephant with a fish?
Oh, geez. I have no idea.
Swimming trunks. That's all I have for the week, Wendy. Back to you.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. We hope this information in today's podcast has been helpful and maybe a little bit humorous. Take care.